What's up, family? It's your brother Jared. Welcome to the Mitchell Experience. And today we're going to take a look at the Ascent Charge True Wireless Headphones. I had a friend of mine sending these out to me to check out. Shout out to Glenn. I really appreciate it. And, I've had an opportunity to really give these things a real spin, use these in a lot of different scenarios, and wanted to really give you my take on these guys. So if you're ready, let's go. So the Rowkin Ascent line is a set or company, I've been watching them for quite some time, and I've seen a lot of really mixed reviews on their product line, particularly if you go on Amazon. Amazon, these things are sitting at like 3.1 or something to that effect, and that's across the Ascent Charge, the Charge Plus, the Micro Touch, the Ascent Micro. Look, these things can be really confusing as far as deciding which ones to get, right? You get a couple of them that look exactly alike, but they have a different feature set. For example, you have the Ascent Charge. You also have the Ascent Charge Plus. What's the difference? The Charge Plus has wireless charging, the Ascent Charge does not. So it's very easy to end up in a situation, one kind of like what I'm in, where you've got the Ascent Charge, but you end up with the wireless charge. You're not realizing that you didn't get the Charge Plus to do, wireless charging, all to realize that, they're not compatible with each other, whoop-de-doo. So with all that being said, like I said, a friend of mine sent these out to me to check out. He was sending them back. They were not for him, and he wanted to get my opinion on them before, they went back to the manufacturer. So I actually opened the box up, and my first impression on these was I just knew that as soon as I took these out of the box that I was going to hate them. I knew I was. There was absolutely no question in my mind. But this is the beautiful thing about review periods, is that over time, as you use them, you get to form your own opinion and not necessarily be relying on snap judgment. So with all that being said, if you guys all know, when it comes to my reviews, there's always a set of criteria that I look at. I look at call quality, features, battery life, fit, and sound, and we take all of that and we gauge it against the price to determine whether or not this is going to be an overall good package. Let's start with call quality. Call quality on these things, in a word, was okay. And a lot of that has to do with the way these things are designed. These things have a similar issue that most true wireless earbuds have, and that's the fact that the way these bad boys are designed, they don't really leave much in the way of giving you a microphone that's going to be directional, right? These things have almost like a screw theme going to them, meaning that once these things are in your ear, these things are going to sit out kind of looking like some Frankenstein bolts, right? So how is the microphone going to point towards your mouth to be able to pick up your vocal as opposed to everything else? In a word, it doesn't. These things give you a very airy sound. They sound pretty far away. Having a conversation with my wife, she said that I sounded like I was speaking in a wide open room and I was away from my phone. That's pretty typical of this. But, with all that being said, listen, I can tell you about it all day, but take a listen for yourself and you tell me what you think.
All right, we are doing the test for the Rowkin Ascent Charge. Currently doing a walk through my office, doing the test with some background noise, knocking on the wall, seeing how that sounds. Currently about 15 feet away, continuing to walk down the hallway, seeing whether or not this thing is going to maintain connection. Or
So let's talk about features. When it comes to features, these things advertised a lot. I mean, they advertised, Bluetooth 5.0. They advertised touch control. They advertised the fact that this thing is a charging case for your device. It's USB-C, which I think is a really, really nice perk. It disappoints me that most of these manufacturers still haven't figured out a way to incorporate USB-C. Get it together. But this thing also acts as a charging case for your device. And that's obviously, there we go, where you can get the LED so you can see how much battery life you have in there. This has a 1900 milliamp hour battery. It does also come with the mobile app to allow you, use the Find My Buds feature and to control your sound profile. The Charge Plus version of these offers wireless charging. These things offer 3.5 hours of use time plus another 50 hours on the case itself. And their biggest thing that they really have going for them, that they really advertise, is the fact that they're small. And they are small. You know, I definitely have to give them credit for that. But not only are they small, but they're really well built. I don't know if this is metal, but it certainly feels like metal. You know, the case definitely has a metal portion and a plastic portion, but the metal portion of it gives it a really stout, solid feeling to it, which is, you know, is nice. This definitely gives you the impression of really solid build quality. Now, how do they live up? You know, I found that with most of these true wireless earbuds that advertise touch controls, you know, it's hit or miss, and these are no different. The touch controls are really finicky in terms of how well they operate. Now, I did read stories about some people saying their earbuds just stopped working completely. I haven't had that experience, but I haven't had these for very long, so you know, I'm not gonna profess to say that, you know, months down the line the touch control isn't going to work, but that's another reason why I personally prefer buttons, because buttons have a much lower likelihood of failing than a touch control will. The more sensors you have in these types of things, the more likely something is to go wrong. And it's not like you can just replace that, right? So the touch buttons are supposed to be, you know, like this controls your left one. I'm sorry. Yeah, your left one controls your forward and back. I had the damnedest time getting that to work right. And the right one controls your play and pause and your assistant. I don't like the fact that the touch control is separated between the two buds. I really feel that there should be, you know, forward on one and back on the other, you know, just to make it easier, because typically you're going to reach to your right, you know, you're going to push the button to your right to make a track go forward and push the button to your left to make a track go back. Double tap and triple tap is just, is more things to have to remember. And I'm not really a fan of that. You actually have to, you know, time it. And, you know, your triple tap is 1, 2, 3, not a triple tap like I normally would. Having to fool with that just wasn't, I just wasn't really impressed by that. I also noticed that I didn't see any advertisement for any sort of IP rating on these at all. I looked on Rowkin's site, I looked on the Amazon listing, I looked up, you know, as much information that I could find on them, and I didn't see anything mentioned as far as IP rating. I have used these in the gym, I've used it in the gym with no issue, but you know, that's just a couple of sessions. You know what I mean? How is it going to work over time if you happen to be a person that's running a marathon or happen to have an exceptionally heavy session or just happen to be really sweaty that day? Is it going to be a problem for you? That, I don't know. Now, coming back to this case is kind of interesting, right? So it's got a magnet around the ring here that's designed to catch the earbuds, but that magnet is not what necessarily causes it to charge. So what you kind of got to do is you see that little pin on the inside there? And get that a little closer. You've got that pin that's on the inside there. So what you've got to do is you've got to get the earbud in there and then twist a little bit just to make sure that it seats properly and it sits flush. Because otherwise, the earbud will catch on the lip of this thing and it won't allow it to close properly. It actually had that happen with this earbud where I closed the case and for whatever reason, this thing kind of popped up and I couldn't get this to open all the way, and that was troublesome. I can see that happening more and more as you use these, because as you use these types of things more often, you kind of, you know, get a little quicker and you might end up being a little sloppy. You won't necessarily want to have to worry about twisting these things in, but you got to get them in the case just right. And I don't like that. Another thing that I don't like is I don't like these. These are the little fins that come with these. And, you know, when I got these out of the box, these little bad boys were sitting around, you know, the seat of the earbud like these, right? And I understand what they're designed to do. They're designed to, you know, give you a better seal, and they're designed to help hold the earbud in place. But I found these things to be more pain in the ass than anything else for a couple of reasons. One, getting them seated on the earbud, as you can see me struggling, is a challenge to get them on there just right. Otherwise, these things just kind of slide right off. And you know, when these things are in your ear, I find that these things cause me a good amount of discomfort because I can't get them in my ear just right. And when I do finally maneuver to get them in my ear just right, they're pushing on the outer side of my ear canal, which gives me, you know, some pain and some discomfort right away. Now, my initial thoughts on that was, you know, I went ahead and took these off and tried them again. And once I got these in my ear, I just knew that they were going to fall out. But I discovered a trick that really helped my ears get a really good fit on them. And that is I put them in there with the earbud pointing up, and then I twist them like a bit of a screw. to face toward my earbuds, and that gets me a pretty good seal and it locks it in. I was actually very surprised with how well these things sat in my ear once I did that little trick. Now when I did that, these things weren't going anywhere. Well, I say that loosely. These things had a very difficult time going anywhere. I only had to adjust these once, maybe twice during my activity, but this thing, they stayed in place during my HIIT workout. They stayed in place during my treadmill jog. I mean, they stayed in place. I was actually very surprised considering the fact that there is, once these are off, there's no sort of ear fin or no sort of ear hook or anything like that that keeps them in place, unlike, my Tread Labs that have this little guy here up top that keeps them in place. I didn't think these things were going to stick in there. And I fully expected that with the silicone material that these things were made of, that was going to be a problem. It wasn't. I was actually very pleasantly surprised with how well these things actually stayed in there. Now, the next thing is battery life. Battery actually pleasantly surprised me. Now, I've told you guys on many occasions that I am not the type of person that's going to keep a set of earbuds in my ear for hours upon hours. Well, I kind of found myself being, different over the last couple of days. So I had the benefit of, getting these things on a day that I didn't have much going on. So I kept these in my ear in the office for at least 3 hours straight. Never had any issues with battery at all. Now, I also wasn't rocking these things at full volume the entire time. So I do think that they would last longer than the 3.5 hours that were advertised. But as far as my use case, I just found these things to be really comfortable. So unlike a lot of true wireless earbuds that I have where I feel the need to take them out and actually put them in the case because, my ears starting to get fatigued or tired of feeling like they're plugged up, these were really surprisingly comfortable for me. I'm still talking about fit, I know. But all that being said, based on that, keeping these in my ear, I didn't notice any degradation of battery life. Now, a cool thing about the app that I want to show you, and I'm going to show you this on my iPhone. This thing actually gives you an indicator of what the battery percentage is on each earbud. I didn't really see that get low. I thought that was really cool. Now, since we're talking about the app, this will tell you exactly where your battery life is, but this is also where you're able to control your sound profile. So as you can see, I have mine set to acoustic. You can set it to electronic. You can set it to rock. You can set it to bass. Now, I do wish that there was a custom EQ that was on this. I didn't discover that. I just discovered the presets. But I do like anytime anybody gives you anything that really allows you to have any sort of control on your sound profile. This was nice. Now, the last thing is sound. Sound on these was actually pretty decent. They had, once I adjusted the EQ gave me a better bass response. It was clear. It wasn't, a situation where I was able to hear things in my music that I was never able to hear before, but it was pretty balanced. And that's really all I can ask for is a set of earbuds to be pretty balanced. If I had any knock, the knock would be the fact that I wish these things got louder. I really do. They were pretty decent in the situations that I used them in, but I did find myself in a couple of scenarios wishing that I can just get these things, a notch or two higher than what they were. But that's my biggest knock, really. That's my biggest knock. So once again, the ability to adjust the EQ, like I said, I wish I had more options. I wish I can really adjust manually my EQ curve. I would have loved to have a stronger bass response. This thing is, this thing is pretty solid when it comes to bass, but these things are nothing like my Tread Labs when it comes to, actually feeling the bass in your ears. I would say volume wise, they're similar. They're a little bit louder than my Jobbers. They're nowhere near as loud as my Tread Labs. But not anything in such where I would say they suck. They don't. They're actually pretty decent. These things don't chop out like other true wireless earbuds I have do. These things kind of do a soft fade out and fade back in, which definitely is nice. It's not as jarring as some other earbuds are when they start chopping out. They just, like I said, it's graceful. It fades in, it fades out, then it fades back in, and it gets you right back to where you were when they reconnect. I like that. So, like I said, not a lot of negativity, other than the hardware things, which was them really, trying to be bold and trying to do different. And I commend that. I commend that in an environment that is so crowded with people trying to do the same things, to try to come with something that looks very distinctive and something that has a very distinctive feature set. I commend them for what they were trying to do. I think they missed the mark execution-wise. But even with that, I wouldn't tell you not to buy these. I would say try them out, because that fit piece is going to be very, very subjective. And I know people that, based on the way their ears are designed, this won't work well for them. So with all that to say, that was it. So if you have any questions, by all means, leave them in the comments. I'll be down below responding back to you guys for as long as I can. And please like, subscribe, share with your friends. And if there's any requests that you have, please let me know. And I'll catch you on the flip. Peace.